Hello. How's everyone doing this morning? Awesome. So thank you so much for coming to our governance panel this morning. My name's June. I help out with our governance team here at Penn Blockchain Franklin Dow. So for some background, we are currently delegates for quite a few different DeFi protocols in the ETH and other L1, L2 spaces. We're looking to get more and more involved in the whole crypto governance side of things. For some background, we started our governance program about 2 years ago when we first started getting delegations for compounded Uniswap. Since then, over the last 3 or 4 semesters, we've tried to expand, and I think a lot of it is the students and members of our club that are interested in different protocols will sort of take on the initiative to start another project, to delegate for another token, to get involved in another ecosystem. So today on our panel, I'll do a quick brief introduction, and then I'll give, I guess, a segue into how we interact with them on a daily basis, and maybe get a nice longer intro for them. So here first we have Ori, he's from Chaos Labs, Gauntlet, Paul. We have Matt and Fig on the end from StableNode and Flipside Crypto, and then we have Ross, who we interact with quite recently, or very often in a lot of our delegations. So starting off, right, when we get involved in governance, we have to, initially get delegation. The goal is to, be involved, and it usually makes it, more meaningful when we have a bag of tokens that we can vote with, right? This started around 2 years ago when Andreessen started their whole governance program. We received initial delegation, and then in the next maybe 2 years or so, we've currently worked with, half a dozen or so VCs in Wales, and maybe trying to, I guess, be delegates for as many people as possible. Ross, he leads governance relations for, we have a live stream now. All right. He leads governance for Andreessen. Take it away.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Ross Schul. I work over at Andreessen Horowitz, as June was just saying. I work on our crypto network operations team, which comprises all of our on-chain activities. So that includes staking of any tokens that we have, and it also includes all of our governance. So we do both governance design, organizational design with all of our portfolio companies, helping them think about what governance model they need for their particular protocol and how it should evolve as they mature and decentralize. And then we also directly vote our own tokens, and as June was alluding to, we have a formal token delegation program that we've been running for a number of years. And through that, we delegate tokens to university blockchain clubs like Franklin Dow and a number of professional delegates as well.
Awesome, thank you. So once we do get delegation, we try and be as active as we can in the forums. I think baseline level is voting and participating on every single vote that comes in. And a lot of the votes that we do see, right, are submitted by ecosystem actors and ecosystem partners per se with different protocols. So for example, we're heavily involved with Aave. Aave has quite a few sort of ecosystem actors that do risk parameter analysis, do different types of analysis with sort of different ratios and different, I guess, parameters on the project themselves. Oftentimes, it, I guess, comes down that we are voting and sort of reviewing and analyzing decisions made from some of these actors, such as Chaos Labs and Gauntlet. So I guess, Ori, if you don't mind, would love to learn a bit more about what you do.
Hi everybody, excited to be here. So I'm Ori, I lead everything customer and community facing for Chaos Labs. Chaos Labs essentially is a cloud platform specializing in economic risk and optimization. So we work with DAOs on parameter recommendations, incentive optimization, help with the asset listing process. And basically what we do, we run Monte Carlo simulations at scale, which help us achieve statistical significant results, which help us provide these recommendations for these parameters to be set in a way to balance the risk-reward ratio to protect these protocols on the risk side, but also to be capital efficient on the other side. And a lot of our work with June and other community members is how do we communicate this very complex work on the back end. So we build tools that are radically transparent, and they are able to communicate these results and these simulations in a way that the average person can comprehend to help them make more informed decisions.
Awesome. Thank you. And Paul, could you give an intro on yourself and Gauntlet?
Sure. Thanks, June. Hi, all. I'm Paul. I'm from Gauntlet. So for those of you who may not be aware, for context, Gauntlet is a financial modeling platform that serves DeFi protocols. Our platform is a result of the years of research we have done in the space. So Gauntlet has published the most most cited peer-reviewed research papers in the DeFi industry. And that sort of drives the services we provide to our clients. So in practice, one of our main products is risk management. And in that area, we provide risk simulations, stress tests, risk monitoring, and alerting for our risk management clients. That is where we interact with delegates such as Penn blockchain, and our aim is for our financial modeling platform to help communities make better decisions around risk and revenue that drive the project forward. So DeFi protocols can not only grow, but they can grow sustainably.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul and Ori. So the sort of general characteristics of a delegate has changed over time as well. Initially, maybe 2 or so years ago, with sort of the pilot program that Andreessen had, starting with maybe Compound and Uniswap, a lot of the delegates were sort of just university groups. It was a nice maybe onboarding to crypto for a lot of people. The role of a delegate was maybe casual, part-time at best. Over the last year and a half, we've seen the role of a professional delegate become more and more apparent. I think me and sort of our club personally as a whole, we're trying to be less of a stereotypical university delegate and trying to be more and more of an actual professional delegate. So in our day-to-day work, we sort of coerce and we talk with a lot of other professional delegates, being Matt from StableNode and Fig from Flipside Crypto. If you could give an introduction.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt from StableLab. We're a professional delegate organization, as June said. We work in over 15 protocols right now, ranging from protocols just starting on their decentralization journey, where we act as advisors, to major DeFi protocols like Maker, Compound, Aave, where we act as either one of the top delegates in the protocol or serve on some committees. And so we have a team of governance analysts and researchers that are working on implementing clear governance frameworks and really just structuring governance to allow. Does this work? Basically to help these protocols grow towards decentralization in a safe and sustainable way.
Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Fig Gowan. I work at Flipside Crypto. Flipside Crypto ingests and curates data across different L1 and L2 blockchains. Along with that, we help incubate DAOs and create different DeFi primitives. Something we've invested a lot of time in over the past year and a half is governance. Governance for us is a way to be a better partner, but also a way to grow crypto and grow DeFi as a whole. So right now we participate in Ethereum, Cosmos IBC, and Solana as well.
Awesome, thank you. So taking it back to square zero, right? Day one, we sort of learned about this governance delegation program. We were a bit confused. We didn't really know what it was. Ross, could you speak to maybe why Andreessen delegates, why they maybe piloted the program, and sort of your general vision on why delegation maybe could be better for the ecosystem as a whole?
Yeah, so Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, we've been delegating tokens for several years now. And the thinking comes back to one of our central theses on investing in crypto generally, and that is the end state for protocols in the space is to create companies or protocols that remove gatekeepers, that provide open, neutral, fair access to everybody. And aligned with that effort, you have users become the owners and owners become users. So we see ourselves as investors as having a responsibility to be activists in the space. And that is why we're involved in every way that we can with the protocols we invest with. So we stake our tokens whenever staking is an option to help support the health of protocols. And we also see delegating our tokens as a meaningful way to help advance the decentralization of protocols towards their end state of being open, neutral, fair systems. And when we look to delegate tokens, we don't want to just arbitrarily delegate out tokens. We want to have this form of strong token delegation where not only are we removing the surface level concentration of voting power by handing out tokens to other entities, but we also strengthen the underlying governing body by selecting delegates that we think contribute to that governing body in a meaningful way. So several years ago, Franklin Dow was one of the first delegates that A16Z kind of selected for some of our first DeFi protocols we had invested in. And it's grown since then. The relationship has grown. And across the majority of DeFi protocols that we're invested in, we delegate tokens to Franklin Dow, as well as many other. We're probably up to about 50 delegates now, both university clubs and professional delegates. And then when we think about how should we go about delegating, what kind of delegate actually contributes to improving the diversity and the strength of that governing body for that system, we have a very formal process we go through. It's transparent. Anybody can go to GitHub, look up A16Z's page, and you'll be able to find our delegation assessment rubric there. So we go through a number of attributes that help us quantify, do we think this delegate one is going to contribute meaningfully to the protocol, that they don't have any conflicts both with us as a firm or with the protocol they're invested in, or the protocol that they're going to be delegates for. And do we think they have high potential of being long-term leaders for that community that will outlast the actual development team that started the protocol? And so we compile all of those for potential delegates, and that's how we come around to making decisions as to who we should delegate our tokens to.
Thank you. Now, I think the struggle, right, and the sort of overarching goal for many delegates is to just increase their delegation, right? They want to spend more and more time, they want to get more and more impactful, and they want to make a more lasting impact on the protocol. Now, I think we have recently tried to sort of expand our both protocols and then the delegations across those as well. I'd love to sort of hear how some other delegates sort of approach this. So, I guess Fig, how does the flip side sort of market itself? What do you sort of use to appeal to possible delegators in order to get a larger stake?
Yeah, at Flipside, we try to rely on our core competencies, and that's data. We try to use data to actually back our decisions and inform our decisions as well. I think the best way to attract and retain delegation is actually by engaging. Crypto is very fortunate to have a very clear and transparent proof of engagement. History on forums, histories on chain. So at Flipside, we try to engage across a bunch of different protocols and be there for a while. Before delegation, after, and during.
Thank you. And Matt, love to learn how StableNode goes about this.
So at StableLab, we like to let our work in the DAOs kind of do the work for us. So basically, we're very active in these forums. We work on different committees. And through this, even though we initially start with very little delegation in most of the protocols we work in, usually self-delegated voting power, but through our work on these committees and meeting people in the forums and all that, we're able to grow our delegation, receive delegation from major venture firms, from core team members, things like that. And this has allowed us to become one of the top delegates in most of the protocols we work in. And I would say when we do have conversations with these top venture firms about delegation, what they like most about us is our professionalism. So we have a team of researchers and governance analysts that, through our experience have developed a code of conduct of how we go about each proposal. So we don't let any biases influence us. We're really just looking at, will this be beneficial to the DAO? And I think because of this, it's allowed us to receive a lot of delegation from these big venture firms and even some that don't feel comfortable delegating to any other delegate organization, and they will only delegate to us. And I'd say what we market is the ability to create these long-lasting governance frameworks for these protocols and helping them grow towards decentralization in a safe and sustainable way.
Awesome, thank you. So as we are, eventually delegates, we're possibly, voting or hopefully voting on these different protocols. We see a lot of proposals come through that are submitted by Chaos Labs and Gauntlet, right? I guess you obviously gave an overview of Chaos Labs. Would love to learn a bit more about sort of your tech stack and sort of how you go about maybe providing your analyses, how you go about marketing your product, and to the core team or to delegates themselves.
So it all starts with the team behind Chaos. So our team has years of experience building critical mission-critical infrastructure across the biggest companies, Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and years of experience in cyber intelligence and special forces in the Israeli Defense Force. So in the core of the company is a very rigorous and methodical approach to risk management and to building cloud infrastructure, which is the basis of the Chaos cloud platform. And generally, as I said earlier, one of our main approaches when we engage with a community or a protocol is to be very, very transparent with the way that we work. So every methodology that we write and every proposal that we provide, we put it out in a way that the community can digest and understand, and also bring in their input. So it's always important for us to receive the feedback from the community. A lot of the decisions or the proposals that we make, they could be made in several different ways. And the risk side and the reward side are obviously something that can be, that the different members can look at it in a different way. So that's one of the core things that we do. And the other side of it is the products that we're building. So our goal is to empower DAOs and empower protocols to be able to both see the results themselves, run the simulations themselves, and be part of that whole process. So through transparency and through building these products that can be used and be understood by the communities is our way to go.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we know that you guys are maybe newer and really appreciate the work that you guys are putting out there. Looking to seeing you guys get more and more involved over the next few years, as I'm sure you will. Now, Paul, so we've, before my time starting with governance and I guess over the last year or so, we've known about Gauntlet for a while. We were sort of, there while you guys did your, massive raise, while you guys sort of got your nice valuation, while you guys, got some of your major clients, right? I'm curious, so over the last few years, how has this sort of tech stack evolved over time? What do you guys emphasize? What do you guys sort of focus on?
Yeah, for sure. I think most people who know Gauntlet probably first come across us in our research. So we publish a wide variety of research across different topics in the DeFi ecosystem, whether it's optimization related or risk related. So I think there are kind of a few parts to it. I think there's the quantitative research side, and then it's productizing that research, and then delivering that to communities so that communities can digest it. On the quantitative research side, over the last several years, ever since kind of DeFi started, we've been analyzing and conducting research on the various mechanisms in DeFi. I think one of the really exciting things is that this is sort of a new alternative financial system, but with that comes, a set of different challenges and opportunities that haven't really been fully explored. And one of our goals is to really understand these new mechanisms and drive understanding for communities. So that's kind of the first part around conducting the quantitative research and really understanding, how market risk works. And from this, we draw upon our roots in traditional finance. So most of our simulation engineers are from quantitative trading firms, whether it's D. Shaw or Vatic Labs or other quantitative trading firms. And we also have, obviously, engineers that come from more traditional tech backgrounds. So after the quantitative research, we productionize it into various tools and platforms to help our clients achieve their goals, whether it's optimization related or risk management related. And this, consists of a variety of different mechanisms like risk simulation models or risk monitoring or other platforms to really productionize what we've learned through our research into robust risk management. And then from there, it comes down to helping communities. We provide recommendations to communities to provide greater insight as to, what are the levels of market risk, under which scenarios do risk actually materialize, what are the things we can do to, mitigate those risks. And in that realm, I think one very important thing is to make sure, recommendations and methodology is very well explained to the community so that delegates, like people on this panel, can incorporate that into their decision making.
Awesome, thank you. Now, Matt, when we see these different proposals and we sort of, have to get into the process of actually deciding how to vote on them, right? I'd love to learn a bit more about how you guys and approach actually coming to a final decision. What is the people involved? What is the process sort of behind the door?
So we look at each proposal on a case-by-case basis. I'd say the first thing we look for is a proven track record. So whether it's being involved in that specific DAO as a contributor or a committee member or anything, just showing that you're interested in the DAO, you care about the success of the DAO, you understand the protocol. Or it could be if it's a proposal for a service provider, if this service provider has provided the service in a similar DAO, like if it's for a borrowing lending market and you've done risk management in Aave, then if we're voting on a proposal in a new borrowing lending market, it might be a good fit. I'd say another thing we look for is very clear proposals, so exactly what service is being provided, who's working on it, how long it's going to take, very clear budget with breakdown of salaries, infrastructure costs, maintenance costs, and a reasonable budget. We've seen some crazy proposals go through some DAOs. And then I think the final thing we look for is clear performance indicators. So anything that will help us in 3 to 6 months when we're looking at either continuing this agreement or terminating it. Has it been a success? Has it been a failure? And this also, I think, really helps keep the service provider accountable as it gives them goals to aim for to help the DAO succeed. And I think we've found that this method of evaluating proposals has really helped not only the DAOs but the service providers and has worked best for everyone.
Awesome, thank you. Now, Fig, at Flipside, we'd love to learn a bit more about sort of your internal processes, how I think I remember you mentioning that you sort of help build out the process itself from the ground up. We'd love to learn a bit sort of, how it's transitioned and moved around over the years.
Yeah, we like to help these teams when we can. I think for us it's important to understand what the environment is, right? Is there a lot of risk floating around in the market? Is it responsible to, add more guardrails and create a cleaner and more responsible user experience? For us right now, revenue is important within these DAOs. We think that's the best way to actually build sustainability and have them exist for years to come. When we evaluate different proposals, we do a good job of kind of having a lead within that protocol and understanding those nuances and relationships, but also having the wider team involved in removing some of that bias, looking at it at face value and seeing, all right, does this make sense? Will this actually attract more users and deposits? Will it incentivize more borrows? So that's just kind of how we think about it in a protocol like Aave.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Ross, I'd love to get your opinion on sort of, from a higher level, right? In a sense of you're sort of overseeing everything, you're deciding on maybe who to delegate to. What are your general opinions on both maybe these service providers and then also the different approaches that these delegates take?
Yeah, so I think it's probably a two-part question of there's delegates and then there's service providers. So on the delegate front, as I was kind of talking about earlier, is we want to see a continual kind of commitment to the protocol, and that's one of the attributes we kind of assess is how committed are you to the protocol? And you demonstrate that through your involvement in proposals and how you thoughtfully assess. It may be different frameworks that different delegates use, but do you have a thoughtful framework through which you're assessing these various proposals and how they're going to impact the long-term sustainability of these protocols to make sure that they can continue to run long after the core development team has moved on. So, and we routinely come back every few months and we kind of analyze, hey, how is the current cohort of delegates doing? Do we need to undelegate some tokens from folks? Do we need to bring in new delegates to make sure that the folks that have our voting power out there are doing the right things with it in terms of ensuring that they're committed to the protocols that they're involved with. On the service provider side, I think both guys over here kind of talked about some nuances of how they approach from a business perspective, but ultimately it's a positive-sum game in an expanding industry like crypto. There's plenty of room for everybody to succeed when it's a growing industry. And what we see is that it creates healthy competition. 5 years ago, it was everybody just trying to wrap their head around what is a DAO. And now we're seeing very complex services and analytics being built on top of these DAOs to provide tooling to help them achieve their core objectives as DAOs. So at the end of the day, it's a winning solution for DAOs is how we see it. We really enjoy seeing healthy competition develop in the space because it means that the outcome is that the DAOs themselves, the users and owners of those DAOs, are the ones that are going to be positively impacted.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I'd love to sort of, bring this back to sort of the ecosystem providers, right? What are we expecting in the future? What are we looking forward to? What areas per se would Chaos Labs and Gauntlet sort of, go into next?
So one point is obviously the risk management side of these protocols and these DAOs. The other is optimizations in liquidity incentives. So we recently partnered with Hather Nodes on an osmosis-based incentive optimization program. Basically, how to utilize the liquidity better, and that's one area that we're looking at. One of the things that we spoke about in the back room, is how to make risk management more efficient in these DAOs and these protocols. To pass a governance vote today is a pretty lengthy process. Takes anywhere between a couple of days to a couple of weeks, depending on the size. You guys are definitely aware of this process. One of the proposal that recently came up in the Aave forums was to create a risk council, bringing together the different risk providers as well as different community members or delegates to help streamline some of this process. So that's definitely something that we're going to be looking into on how to make risk management easier, more dynamic, and more streamlined.
Awesome, thank you. And Paul, so I recently saw, Gauntlet release a new product for treasury management. Would love to learn a bit more about that, and then also just sort of how you guys are navigating the ever-developing ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. So the team behind Gauntlet recently launched a new protocol called Era. Era essentially is a treasury management protocol, but in the long term can manage in a decentralized way pretty much any optimization problem that can be calculated and judged on chain. So at a very high level, sorry, there currently exists a variety of issues with how treasury management is currently done across protocols as a result of conflicts of interest, as well as how governance frameworks usually work. So Era essentially allows protocols to deposit some funds in a vault, which is then managed in a decentralized way from various other members, other third-party vendors that can, their performance can be judged on a pretty instantaneous basis because it's optimizing for an objective function that can be judged on chain. So essentially, it's a way to handle any optimization problems, such as treasury management, to fulfill any goals. For example, allowing the treasury to grow under certain markets, but also making sure that it can cover insolvency risks and bad debt in other market scenarios. So it's a way to kind of decentralize optimization. In terms of the ecosystem more broadly, I think there's a lot to be excited about. We agree that there's certainly better risk controls that can be put in place, risk councils to make risk management more streamlined. There's also, I think, a bunch of other trends that we can be excited about in governance. At Gauntlet, we are fortunate to work with pretty much every major lending protocol, Compound, Aave, Venus, et cetera. And I think one trend we're seeing is that protocols are upgrading to new versions, V3, or upgrading their existing mechanisms. So one thing that we're also working on is conducting the research around how risk should be managed for these new versions of the protocols, and how to also ensure safe interactions with old versions of the protocol. And this is something that involves a lot of communication and also goal setting with delegates and the communities more broadly.
Okay, thank you. All right, it makes a lot of sense. I think, so going to the future, Matt, StableNode is, I'm assuming, going to be looking to get more and more involved in more and more ecosystems around, DeFi as a whole. Curious where your, initial, outreaches are going, and maybe what protocols you're interested in getting more and more involved in.
So right now we're in about 15 protocols, mostly in DeFi, but I would say in the future we're looking to expand outside of DeFi. So right now we're in Optimism, and we're looking at more layer 2s like Starknet, and then we're also looking at some more NFT projects with some strong financials. And really, as we expand our team, we're looking just to get into as many DAOs as we can, basically, and help implement clear and sustainable frameworks to help these DAOs move towards decentralization. So as many DAOs as we can help, we will help.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And Fig, so I would say around a year and a half ago, when I was first sort of getting interested and sort of involved in the governance space, I learned of Flipside through sort of the bounties and different programs that Flipside had sort of initially created, right? Going into the future now, how can, both anyone random or anyone sort of new getting into the space, how can they get involved with Flipside? And maybe what is Flipside's sort of trajectory into the future?
Sorry. So we used to run a bounty program where anybody could come learn and perform analytics on blockchain data and create powerful marketing materials for Aave and actually really be informed about what these protocols do and why. We've spent a lot of time helping build Metrics DAO. Metrics DAO is a data agnostic DAO where somebody can post a bounty and ask for analytics or labor of any type. Additionally, we're starting to build out more DeFi primitives such as Badger. Badger is a DeFi credentialing protocol where you can have certain permissions based on roles and opportunities. In terms of governance, that's been a focus for us just to be better stewards in DeFi and in crypto. I think when we think about where we play, we like to diversify across different product types. So lending, Aave, stablecoins, Maker, bridges, Hop, L2s, Optimism. So that's one way we think about diversifying our exposure and coverage. Another way is by opportunity, right? Is there a lot of brand opportunity? I would say Aave has a lot of that. Is there revenue opportunity? That's something like Maker. Is there opportunity for us actually to make a change and build something new from start? That's maybe something like Hop or Safe. So we're continuing to evaluate the problems that people face within crypto and how we can fix it from our governance team to our data and just our crypto nativeness that we're proud to have at Flipside.
Awesome, thank you. Now wrapping up a little bit, we were here obviously at a university blockchain conference. A lot of schools, shout out to everyone who came. Thank you so much. Truly made the weekend. So Ross, it seems like as you guys are sort of, getting more and more protocols that you want to delegate for, or you're looking for new delegators, right? A lot of universities have, reached out to me personally about how we got involved, how maybe they can get involved in ways and things that they can do. So when Andreessen and maybe, I guess, delegates as a whole or delegators as a whole are looking to delegate to other new groups, whether it's universities or other delegates as a whole, what are you looking for, right? How can someone get involved? Who should they contact? Who should they, look out for?
Great questions. So we're constantly investing in new companies and protocols, which means we're constantly searching for great delegates for those protocols to delegate our token voting power to. So the first thing I would say is you can go to a16zcrypto.com. In easy way, there's some stuff about our delegate program there. There's some great content about how we think about delegations, DeFi, decentralized protocol governance. And then go to GitHub, like I was talking about earlier. If you are out there an inspiring delegate, if you're from another university, you want to be an A16Z delegate, go to GitHub, go to A16Z's page, look up our delegation assessment rubric there, and you can check out all the attributes we're looking for in potential delegates. And then you can reach out to me directly on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Ross Schul. Shoot me a DM. My DMs are always open, and we can have a chat about the next steps of how to actually assess you as a delegate. Things we're looking for, aside from that rubric that will very clearly kind of lay out the attributes we want to see, is, I think Fig was talking about this earlier, is the best way to become a delegate is to be a great delegate. You don't have to have voting power to be deeply involved in a community. And so when potential delegates come to us and they say, hey, we would love to be delegates for whatever protocol, and we see that they've already been making great suggestions and that they have actually deep, thoughtful analysis and insights for the protocol and how to help it grow, we're going to be very inclined to want to delegate tokens to those entities. So, yeah.
Thank you. And before we wrap up, Ross Schul on Twitter would love to give opportunity for everyone to, give their social medias. So, if would you, I guess, where can we find you, Ori?
Both on. I guess the easiest is on Twitter at Ori_2.
Awesome.
Yeah, also Twitter at Paul J. Ley, Lei.
Also Twitter, Matt Stein 111, or on most forums, Matt_StableLab.
You can find me under Francis Gowan on Twitter and Telegram, and Fig on the forums.
Awesome. Well, as my boss is here to kick me off stage, appreciate everyone for coming today, and hope you got a good 45 minutes. Thank you all so much.